giving an offering that costs you nothing, that's no offering. I mean, King David was a great example of that. And there's no way by Jesus' death, no way it cost any Christian a single thing. And they say, Jesus' life was so precious to me. No, it wasn't. You've never met the man. All you've heard is stories. You read a romance novel and fell in love with the character. That's it.
And when did a sin sacrifice, a blood sacrifice, when were you able to offer a blood sacrifice for a future sin? When did that ever happen?
Yeah.
That never happened. Any kind of sacrifice was for something that already happened.
Welcome to TaNaCh Talk. I'm your host, William Hall, broadcasting live from Kingsland, Texas, USA, with another episode of TNT, the Twisted New Testament, Judaism and Christianity, a contrast, or the real reasons why Jews don't believe in Jesus, or what's your third book? What are your third book? So go ahead and bring your books up real fast. So right now you got two books, and one is in 3 languages, and the other one is right now in English. That's what we're right there. Judaism and Christianity, a contrast, and the real reasons why Jews don't accept Jesus, don't believe in Jesus. Very good. Okay, so tonight's title is revolving around God never demanded a sacrifice for sin. So the actual question and that created the title was, thank you, Angela, once again. Since God can forgive without sacrifice, can you tell me the purpose of sacrifices and why they were even needed in the first place? What benefit did they serve?
Absolutely. Okay, first of all, it's not that God can forgive without sacrifice. God in the Bible repeatedly forgives without sacrifice, teaching us that you don't need a sacrifice, a blood sacrifice, for the forgiveness of sin. First, let's remember that there were many types of sacrifices. There was the free will offering. There was the whole burnt offering. There was the chatat, the sin offering. There was the asham, the guilt offering, which sometimes gets mistranslated, but whatever. So the point is that there were numerous kinds of sacrifices that were not all for sin. So if I had a particularly good crop, then I might wish to offer a sacrifice as a way of saying, hey, God, thank you. You shared with me, I'm sharing with you. Remember something. There were multiple functions of the sacrifices. In the sacrificial system, in the tent wandering in the wilderness for 40 years, and also once they established the places for sacrifices, the high places, and eventually when they settled and started with the temple. So part of the sacrifice, except for the whole burnt offering, was given to the priests. If you'll pardon the pun, they got their cut, or they got their part of, the sacrifice if it was wheat or barley or oats or spelt or rye. Spy is spelt in rye. So remember, the priests and the Levites did not own land. If they didn't own land, what fed them? Okay, and they got their part of the sacrifice. A lot of the sacrifice was also the festival meal. It was these sacrifices were done at the pilgrimage festivals, and they brought their sacrifice for sacrifice, to be slaughtered, and then they took a cut of the animal back to their homes or where they were staying for the festival meal. So one reason for the sacrifices was, feed the priests and Levites. But why do we give to charity? Okay, we're not talking charity here, but bear with me. Why do we do it? Okay, we do it as an expression of our own gratitude for what we have. We do it to help fill the needs of others, like the priests and the Levites we just talked about. Okay, but the question is sin sacrifices. And you have to remember that sin sacrifices were not for sins committed on purpose. If I go out and rob a bank, if I go out and kill somebody, murder somebody, what does that mean? I give up a cow and God forgives me? No, that's not what it means. The sacrificial system was in place for those sins that were done by accident. And, if you read the Bible, you'll see this in there. Let's see. Leviticus 4, verses 1-2. The Eternal said to Moses, say to the Israelites, when anyone sins unintentionally and does what is forbidden in any of the Eternal's commands, and goes on from there. Leviticus chapter 4, verse 13. If the whole Israelite community sins unintentionally and does what is forbidden in any of the Eternal's commands, Even though the community is unaware of the matter, they are guilty. Leviticus 4:22, when a leader sins unintentionally. Chapter 4, verse 27, if a member of the community sins unintentionally. You see this repeatedly in the section of Leviticus where it's talking about the sin sacrifice. They only brought forgiveness for sins that were not committed on purpose. So again, you have to ask the question, which she asks, which is, then why bring them? If God can forgive without having a blood sacrifice, if God never commanded us to, we'll talk about in a minute, to bring a sacrifice, then why were they around in the first place? People have a tendency, and maybe this I look at this way because of my background. My bachelor's degree, it was like a double major in religious studies and psychology. And people forget that the commandments, God is not stupid. When God gives us these commandments in the Torah, they're for our benefit. God doesn't need this. We need this. And so a person can be very, very deeply consumed with guilt. And so even for things they didn't do on purpose, okay, even for things done to them and not done by them, but done to them, the human psyche can misread everything and start feeling guilty for something that was out of their control. Again, God is not stupid. God does not hold us responsible for something that was not our doing, okay? If we're clumsy, if we're not paying attention, if we're, we can cause a lot of harm, but it's still not done intentionally. And so bringing a sacrifice out of our own sense of guilt, our own understanding that we have indeed sinned, even if there was an accident, can assuage our guilt over what we've done. But it really, if you read carefully in the Bible, when does God actually say, and God spoke to Moses and said, speak to the children of Israel and command them to bring a sacrifice for the forgiveness of sin. That's not what it says. If you take a look at Leviticus chapter 4, verse 1, okay, and the Lord spoke to Moses saying, speak to the children of Israel saying, if anyone shall sin through error in any of the things which the Lord has commanded not to be done, and shall do any one of them, verse 3, if the anointed priest shall sin so as to bring guilt on the people, then let him offer for his sin which he has sinned a young bullock without blemish unto the Lord for a sin offering. What's the commandment in that? The commandment is not to offer for his sin. The commandment is going to be, what does he offer? And when he offers it, how does he offer it? But to offer it is not the commandment here. If the anointed priest sins so as to bring guilt on the people, let him offer for his sin which he has sinned a young bullock without blemish to the Lord for a sin offering. Okay. And then it tells them what can be sacrificed, namely a bullock. Okay. And then how is it sacrificed? Okay. The anointed priest shall take of the blood of the bullock and bring it to the tent of meeting, and the priest shall dip his finger in the blood, and it goes on from there with all the nice blood and gore. Okay. What do you do with some of the organs of the bullock? The fat of the bullock of the sin offering, he shall take off of it, the fat that covers the inwards and the fat that's upon the inwards, and the two kidneys, the fat is upon it. This is what's going to happen to it. Okay. But where in it does it say, and God spoke to Moses and said, speak to the children of Israel and command them to bring a blood sacrifice for the forgiveness of sin. Okay. Take a look at 4:13. And if the whole congregation of Israel make a mistake, the thing being hid from the eyes of the assembly, and do any of the things which the Eternal has commanded not to be done, and are guilty, when the sin wherein they have sinned is known, then the assembly shall offer a young bullock for a sin offering. Again, what's the commandment? The commandment is what shall be offered and how shall they offer it. Okay, go forward. Verse 22, when a ruler sins and does through error again and again and again, it's talking about a mistake, not something done on purpose. In any one of these things which the Lord God has commanded him not to be done and is guilty, if his sin wherein he sins be known to him, he shall bring for his offering a goat, a male without blemish, and goes on from there. So again and again and again and again and again, especially when it's talking about sin sacrifice, the chatat, it's not commanding them to do the sacrifice or saying, unless you offer a blood sacrifice, I'm not going to forgive you. It's not a commandment to offer a blood sacrifice. What's being commanded is, if you're going to bring a blood sacrifice, what do you bring and how do you sacrifice it? And that's repeatedly through the text.
Right.
Okay. And by the way, Leviticus chapter 4, verse 32. And if he bring a lamb as his offering for a sin offering, he shall bring it a female without blemish.
Ooh.
So if a lamb is offered for sin, it's got to be a female and it's got to be without blemish. Jesus was certainly not a female, and he was blemished because he was scourged and beaten and had a crown of thorns that would pierce his scalp. So, oops.
Yep.
So now, there's another element, I think, that really needs to be brought out here with Angela's question. There's an element to a blood sacrifice, especially when you might feel guilty for something that you did by accident, which is, since it was an accident, there, but for the grace of God, go I. It wasn't on purpose. It was an accident. So, hey, God, accept this blood sacrifice in my place. Okay, it was an accident. I didn't mean to do it. I feel sorry for it. Making amends as best I can to the people against whom I've hurt. But this, in appreciation, in acknowledgement, in gratitude that I'm not being held culpable by God for an accidental sin, I am offering this blood sacrifice. Again, it's kind of there, but for the grace of God go I, because I'm allowed to, get this off my chest, so to speak, offer this blood sacrifice and go on with my life. And people will, oh, well, that only covered a sin, but then they're going to sin again. Yeah, we're human. God knows us. God made us this way, And when did a sin sacrifice, a blood sacrifice, when were you able to offer a blood sacrifice for a future sin? When did that ever happen?
Yeah.
That never happened. Any kind of sacrifice was for something that already happened, or we think it might have happened. Interesting about the Asham, which guilt, you see guilt, guilt, that means a sin. No. What it means is, if you think you transgressed, you offer an Asham. And it's not if you think somebody else sinned, you offer the Asham, what is usually translated as guilt offering. It's the person who thinks they might have sinned who must offer that sin, that Asham sacrifice. But if later they find out, hey, oh my God, I really did actually sin, then you have to bring a sin sacrifice, because now your sin has been made known to you, and, it's not good enough that you offered the if I sinned sacrifice. Now you are supposed to offer the yes, actually, I did sacrifice. Okay. And when you do, it's still only for an accidental sin, and it's still for something you found out you already did. It's not for anything or every sin from now into the future.
Right.
So, Angela, I hope that answered your question.
One thing that always annoyed me was, no matter how believable they may seem, when you talk to a Christian, even a pastor or whoever, and they say, Jesus' life was so precious to me. No, it wasn't. You've never met the man. All you've heard is stories. You read a romance novel and fell in love with the character. That's it. There is no connection between you and Jesus, no matter how you look at it. I mean, like during Pesach time, if you bought a lamb and you kept it around your house for a couple of days and you pet it, you fed it, you grew attached to it, that's growing attached to something. And then something like that gets taken away. That's where it moves the heart. Because your heart is moved, because you're thinking about Jesus, it's a romanticized, just a family.
It's a fetish.
Drama.
It's a fetish. It's an object it becomes an object becomes the object of my affection, my adoration, my whatever, but it's not real. It's the difference between puppy love, where you fall in love with an ideal, not the actual person, and real love, where you know them, you don't idolize them, you don't turn them into an idol, you know them for their flaws, and you accept their flaws as much as you accept their good points as well. That's real love.
So giving an offering that costs you nothing, that's no offering. I mean, King David was a great example of that. And there's no way by Jesus' death, no way it cost any Christian a single thing, except maybe a few tears. That's it. It didn't cost you anything. And if it doesn't cost you anything, how does that even work anyway? I mean, the whole point of doing penance and doing, like, even when you went, like, even a basic sin like stealing something, you gotta work your butt off and pay that back, 7 times or however, whatever the actual penalty is. But it's got to cost you. If it doesn't cost you anything, it's not going to do anything for you except make you emotional.
And look, I think God wants our behavior to be right behavior. I don't think God is so petty and small that God is going to wait till it costs us something in order to say, don't worry about it, it's forgiven.
Right, true.
Okay.
I'll tell you what we can do now if you want to. Let's roll into that. Did you write down the notes that I gave you for the what was it, Luke and John?
Yes, it's Luke chapter 23, verse 43.
Okay, let me pull that one up first, and then you can give me the other one. Hang on. Okay, what was the other one?
The other one is John chapter 20, verse 17.
And this is just one of hundreds of contradictions. Yeah. Okay, they are on screen now. This is John 20, verse 17. Jesus saith unto her, touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father, but go to my brethren and say unto them, I ascend unto my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God. And then Luke 23, 43 says, and Jesus said to him, verily I say unto you, today shall you be with me. What is, I'm missing something. My highlighted verse, one has to do with the talking to the thief, and the other one says is talking to
Mary, I believe.
Mary, yeah.
Right, but look what it says.
Okay.
The Luke passage, the Luke 23:43, Jesus is speaking to the thief that is up on the
cross next
to him. Okay? And what does Jesus say? Verily I say to you, today you shall be with me in paradise.
Right.
Okay? But at the resurrection, Jesus is speaking to Mary Magdalene. This is after the crucifixion. This is after being, according to the story, in the ground.
It says he's not yet ascended to my Father. Oh, interesting.
Exactly. That's the problem.
Interesting.
Don't touch me. I have not yet ascended to my Father, but go to my brethren and say to them, I ascend to my Father and your Father, my God and your God. Okay? So the contradiction is, Jesus tells the thief, today you will be with me in paradise.
Just like he told his disciples, many of you standing with me today will not taste death until you see the kingdom coming in his glory, or whatever.
Yeah, guess what? Didn't come, did it?
Never happened, right? Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
So
nice.
The contradiction is he tells one person, today we'll both be in paradise, and 2 days later, however you want to count it, 3 days later, either way, I don't care, Jesus tells someone else, I haven't gone to heaven yet.
Yeah.
And Christians will twist and turn, and they'll reinterpret, and they'll give it some explanation. But the simple, basic, literal understanding of this didn't happen the way he said it would. Something's wrong here.
Yep.
Yeah. And one of the more clever ways, which I have never seen a translation printed this way. Okay. Take a look at the Luke on the right.
Okay.
It says, and Jesus said to him, comma, verily I say to you, comma, today shall thou be with me in paradise. And the Christians say, oh, no, they didn't punctuate it correctly. It should be read, and Jesus said to him, verily I say unto you, today shall you be with me in paradise. That's weak. They moved the comma one space over.
Wow.
Okay, one word over.
Why? First of all, that's the stupidest thing.
Translation do that.
Well, it's stupid because if he's speaking to them, why would he say, "I'm saying this," like me telling you, Rabbi, you and I are talking today.
Yeah.
There's no purpose in saying that. That's just retarded.
Yes, I know, but
of course we're talking today. This is not Memorex.
Come up with excuses.
You're not watching a recording of me. We're talking today.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Really? I thought I was listening to a recording you made weeks from now. Right.
Yep.
By the way, since you got it up on the screen.
Yes.
And even though it's not really, the issue here, I want to point something else out because it's important to see this in the text. Okay. This is the John chapter 20, verse 17 verse. Okay.
Okay.
Gospel of John chapter 20, verse 17. Jesus saith unto her, touch me not, for I have not yet ascended to my Father. But go to my brethren and say to them, I ascend unto my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God. Wait a minute. I thought the relationship that Jesus had with God the Father, according to the Trinity, was that Jesus was God, and it's a special relationship between Jesus, the Son, and God the Father. But here, Jesus himself is equating his relationship with God the Father to everybody else's relationship with God the Father. Equal. I ascend to my Father, your Father, my God, your God. He's making the statement that, at least to his disciples, his brethren, that the relation they have with God is the same relationship he has with God.
Right.
Contradicts the Trinity, okay? And that's how the text reads.
Right.
I ascend to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. It's the same relationship according to Jesus, according to the Gospel of John, chapter 20, verse 17.
So explain verse 19 to me. It says, then the same day at evening began the first day of the week, when the doors were shut, where the disciples were assembled for fear of the Jews. I thought the disciples were Jewish.
Well, they were, but you see these evil Jews. Okay, remember, this is John. Okay, the evil Jews, they're not really waiting for the Messiah. They want to hide the fact that the Messiah has come. Okay, would you mind lifting that up? Because on my screen, it's hidden by the arrows and the live and the volume and all that stuff.
I am not sure what you're talking about.
On the screen, we have the verses of John 20, verse 17.
Yes.
But you're making a reference to verse 19, and I can't see it, which means nobody can see it.
I could see it, and I'm looking on the stuff, but maybe you're right. Maybe they didn't see it.
Okay, I have, the red line of where we are in the video, and then there's the button that you push to make the video continue.
Yes.
And then there's a fast forward, and there's a no sound, and then there's the volume sense. Okay, that's blocking the text.
Gotcha.
And the big Tav, the insignia of TaNaCh is blocking the verses. I can't see it on my screen.
Gotcha. Well, the verse 19 is up higher now. It's been there for a little while.
Okay, good. Okay, there we go. And the same day at evening, being the first day of the week, when the doors were shut where the disciples were assembled for fear of the Jews, came Jesus and stood in the midst and said to them, "Peace be to you." So this is the evidence of the resurrection of Jesus. That's what's going on here. So wherever it is that they're assembled in private, away from the public because they're afraid of the Jews, okay, if Jesus were really the Messiah, shouldn't the world know about it? Why would they be afraid of the Jews? Everybody should be saying, "Hooray, the real Messiah's come."
Right.
Okay, if he were the real Messiah, they would know in their hearts. So Jesus came and stood in their midst and said to them, "Shalom Aleichem." And then he shows them their hands and feet, and it goes on from there.
Yeah.
I can't remember which doubting Thomas is. Matthew?
All right, looking at John 20, verse 24 through 29. If you have found this channel helpful and this has blessed you or your family members in helping bring you out of idolatry, I would love to have your support. Please consider donating to this channel directly. That would be pretty awesome. Donations can be done through PayPal, Patreon, or through snail mail. The links to all are added in the video description below. You can also click this link and it will take you straight to my website with a donate button, which leads you right through PayPal. Thank you once again for your kindness and consideration for supporting this work. Blessings for you, your family, and your home. Shalom.
John 20 what?
John 20, the same chapter we were already in, verse 24.
Okay. Oh, 24. So later, Thomas comes on the scene in John, and he gets shown the hands and feet where the nails were. Hence the term doubting Thomas. Well, in the chat, it just says A. I can't read it. A writes, "Is there a rule that Jewish people can't listen to more than one rabbi? I have invited my friends who, like me, have a Jewish grandparent to the Jews for Judaism Zoom. They have left Messianism." You know that the Talmudic passages consist of the statements made by more than one rabbi. So inherently, we are being taught by more than one rabbi. If you take a commentary on the TaNaCh, on the Torah, to limit it, you might pick up Rashi, Ibn Ezra. You're studying a wide variety of rabbinic interpretations of Scripture because that's what the commentaries on the Scriptures are. Okay, even Rashi himself may make a reference to this rabbi who says this, but this rabbi says that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not.
I will say that
sure
I think the context that I've heard something similar to that in is if you already have a rabbi, if you're going to a synagogue, you're basically under his, I hate to use that word. You're under his headship, his covering. And so if you have any decisions to make in your life, you need to go talk to your own rabbi.
All you're going to do to yourself is get very confused if you go to more than one rabbi for that kind of advice.
But if you don't have a rabbi and you're just trying to get a feel for what to do, then reach out to multiple and see which one makes the most sense.
Right. Yeah. But you're supposed to use your local rabbi as Maradatra, as chief interpreter of Jewish tradition for your community.
Yes.
Okay. So, okay. So that's probably what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think you're going to be very confused. And then it's going to be like, the donkey who starves to death between two big piles of hay because he can't make a decision which one he's going to eat. So
yep.
If that's what you mean, then I would agree with that.
Okay, here is a question for you.
8:12
p.m., 23rd Street.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. In Isaiah 53:5, specifically in the Hebrew language, is the word lamo they used? Or is it the word he, as it reads in the English translations?
I'm looking at the Hebrew because the Hebrew, I'm sorry, I apologize. I spoke without looking first. Always look first, then go back and make your statement. This is not where the word lamo was used.
Okay, that's what we want to discuss. What do you got?
This is verse 5. Didn't he say verse 5?
He did say verse 5. He might have made a mistake, though. So 53:5, yeah.
Well, 53:5, okay. Sha'enu, Midakam, Avanotenu, Sar Shlomenu, Alav, upon him. It's not to them, okay? So, no, that one is him, okay? No, the mistranslation there, okay, the mistranslation there is where it says, he was wounded for our transgressions, he was bruised for our iniquities. No, he was wounded from our transgressions. He was bruised from our iniquities. Read it carefully. It's a mem, okay, not a lamed, not for, but from. Yeah. He was wounded as a result of our sin. He was bruised as a result because of our sin, is what it's saying there. That's where the mistranslation
is. And you will definitely find Jewish texts that actually say that he was because of, but it's just because it was loosely translated. There was no fear. Well, no, when this was written and translated, there was no fear of Christians using this for their benefit. So they just kind of loosely translated it, you know what I mean? And now the Christians are like, see, it says right there, it says because, not for. Yeah.
Anybody can learn Hebrew. Anybody can do their own translation and see we're not lying.
Yeah. Just look at the actual Hebrew, the Hebrew itself. And then find out what those prefixes and suffixes mean. Then you'll know for yourself.
Exactly.
You don't have to rely on Skobac's translation or Art Scroll's translation.
Right.
So.
Okay. So let's see. Jewish Publication Society, the old one, not the new one. He was wounded because of our transgressions. He was crushed because of our iniquities. Okay. Let's see. Revised Version gets it wrong. And those are the only translations I have on my screen.
It's all right.
Mainly because I'm not paying for translation, so those are free. It's eSword.
Yep. And eSword is a Christian-based.
It's Christian-based, but it still includes translations.
Yeah.
Like the old JPS.
And that is the good news about when you're looking at stuff online. Even if the English says one thing, you can still see the Hebrew. The Hebrew is still spelled properly. You can cross-reference that.
Well, it's not spelled properly. It's the original.
That's what I'm talking about. It's proper. It's right. It's not mistranslated. It's not like the words haven't been changed on the Hebrew. So the English might be messed up, but the Hebrew is the same as usual.
812 23rd Street. Okay, he specifically said Isaiah 53:5.
Yeah,
and he said, "Is the word lamo?" I jumped to conclusions. Wrong verse. It was not lamo. It was lo. No, it was alav. Okay, and that's not where the mistranslation was in the fifth verse.
That's somewhere. Is that in Isaiah 7 where that issue is?
No. Lamo is an issue of Isaiah 53.
Where?
Okay. Yeah, I knew you were going to ask. Okay.
Yes, verse 8, last word.
Verse 8, lamo. Right. So it's lamo is to them, or yeah.
Explain that. So verse 8, from imprisonment and from judgment he is taken, and his generation who shall he tell? For he was cut off from the land of the living because of transgressions of my people. A plague befell them.
Right.
Well, maybe that's not the verse.
No, that's where it says lamo.
But I thought that was having to do something more Christological than that.
Right. 855, Christo got the 1985 JPS, and he was wounded because of our sins, crushed because of our iniquity. Right. Corin, same thing. Thank you, Christo. Kathy, you're right. Christians like stripes as opposed to bruise, because stripe looks like what happens when you get hit by the whip, by the, what's it called? What was the thing, the whip that they...
Oh, the scourge.
Scourge.
Yeah.
Scourge. Because as it comes down, it makes like a stripe. So they prefer stripe.
So there's two different stories on Judas and how he died.
Yes. Happened. One of which he's hangs himself, I think, and the other one he...
spills his guts out on the ground or whatever.
Yeah, kills himself or something.
Yeah.
But they can't both have happened.
Right.
They're two totally different teachings about how he met his end. That's it.
Okay, we'll call that a wrap.
Yes, now it's off to bed.
There you go. Cool deal. So hopefully, Hashem willing, we'll see you guys same time, same place next week, 8 p.m. Monday night. And I've also got 2 or 3 shows from McBride also that I don't have public yet. That if you're a member, you don't have to worry about. You have access to the original videos. But this will get edited down to get rid of all the blanks and all the quiet spots and unnecessary areas. So with that said, you all should have a great week. Rabbi, you should have a wonderful week as well. And don't hang up, because you and I'll chat for a few minutes.
Yes, and a Chag Chanukah Sameach, everybody.
Amen. Thank you all. We'll see you soon. Peace. Shalom, my dear friends. Hope this message finds you well. If you like the way this channel is going and the channel has been a blessing to you, please consider supporting the channel by going to the website, TaNaChTalk.com. TaNaChTalk.com. Thank you once again for your time and for supporting TaNaCh Talk. Shalom. ויתור זו הגדולה השאיפה